Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Hello, hello. Today is February 17th, 2020. It is Monday, President's Day here in the United States. And yes, my name is Kenya. Welcome to 40 Entrepreneur Drive. We're going to do something special today. We're going to read the Bible because that's what I do every morning. And I got it. Yesterday, I was fooling around with my camera when I was doing my other live stream. Remember how I've been trying to show you guys the Bible, but the light is too bright? I didn't have on autofocus. So now I can go like this, and you guys can see it very clearly. Oh, 8 weeks, you guys, 8 weeks or 7 weeks of me not knowing that. But yes, we are reading the Bible today. I'm using the New Believers Bible Compact Version, New Living Translation. And now, if I have something to show you guys, I can just hold it up and you can see it. Hooray! So that's pretty awesome. Yes, welcome to all the people in the chat today. Let's see, it is from the mountain here in Maine. Now I'm going to look that up. What does your wall plaque say? Aha, very observant. So yesterday I did a live stream of my eBay inventory and I cleared a lot of stuff out, not everything out. There was a donation pile, a dump pile, a sell pile, and I took a few things for myself. So I took some of these things, just two things out from the eBay pile. This is Chinese characters. It says wisdom. And then this is like a little small canvas print. It says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. That comes from Romans 12:12. So I thought both of those two things were, a good idea to save. It would be appropriate for a background for my live stream. Oh, and this too. This is out there for a long time. This is one of my garage sale items that just never left. So I brought it in. It says, God loves you. Pass it on. So that's that. Good observation, good eyes. That's pretty much the only new things. Everything else has been up here for a minute. But yes, those are the new additions to the background there. All right, we are in week 8. I'm so excited. I've been reading the Bible for 7 weeks straight. What? Okay, so let me do a quick screen share for all the newbies. Screen share, screen share, screen share. Bam! Just like that. Okay, so actually I'm gonna do like this. Nope. I'm gonna go like this because I've decided to put two different tabs up there. This is the cover of the devotional guide that I'm using. It is a woman's guide to reading the Bible in a year by Diane Storts. You don't have to be a woman to be in this live stream. This just happens to be the guide that I'm using. The author is a woman, and she wrote it for her women's Bible study group. Oh no, PJ, you're not gonna start that. Come on. Come on, just this one time. And you better keep it down to a minimum. We're not going to have cat interruptions today, hopefully. Shh, shh, shh. Okay, so it is week 8. And let's see. PJ, please. Okay, here we go. Shh, shh, shh. Reasons for rejoicing is week 8. What would life look like as the Israelites lived out their set-apart relationship with God? Leviticus turns its focus to holiness in personal conduct, first for individuals and then for Israel's priests. At specified feasts, festivals, throughout the year, individuals came together to celebrate their relationship with God and thank Him for His gifts. Fellow Israelites who sold themselves as slaves were to be treated as hired workers and set free after 6 years of service. That is a reference to Deuteronomy 15 and 12. Or during the year of Jubilee, which occurred every 50 years. The Gospel of Luke, I guess that's what we'll be covering later on this week. The Gospel of Luke includes details about Jesus and early years from his mother's perspective, including the encounter at the temple with Simeon and Anna, aged and godly, who recognize baby Jesus as the Savior and rejoice. Luke, a Gentile physician, never met Jesus but compiled his account of Jesus' life through careful investigation and interviews, very likely including talks with Mary, Jesus' mother. In a red letter Bible, much of Luke appears in red type because much of the book directly quotes Jesus' teachings, including many of his parables. Luke also records many of the miracles that supported Jesus' claim of authority. And then we've got the checkpoints for this week as we finish, or as we finish through Leviticus and go through Luke. The checkpoints are lamps that never go out, time to rest, an angel by an altar, nets full of fish, a legion of demons. So those are going to be the checkpoints or topics or elements that we do cover this week. And you guys check out this screen share while I put this cat in another room where his pleas for attention will not be a distraction. I love you too, PJ. And with that being said and done, let's start off with a recap from last week. I'm back. All right, last week was, I gotta get to my other page so I can see the chat and so I can see where I'm at. This is Leviticus 19 through 21, so yesterday was like 16, 17, and 18, right? Let's do a quick recap of what was happening yesterday. Exodus. I'm just passing by those pages. I want to sing that song every time I hear it. Read it. Exodus, movement of Jah people. All right. Everything's so clear and nice. Those are nice for your background. I need to learn all this with my channel. Oh, the OBS stuff. I'm gonna check you out. I saw. Actually, I was literally seeking out Bible-minded people because I need more people to help me out. I'm reading the Bible for the first time ever. Well, not ever. I've picked around in it, but this is my first time reading it, and I have a lot more questions than I do answers. Like, I'm not a scholar. I'm just learning this as I go along. And a lot of times I'll be reading and I'll stop and pause and I'll give some commentary like, what was that about? Or what did he mean by that? Or why did that happen? And I'm like, I wish I knew more people. Like, I even asked my coworkers who are churchgoers. I'm like, hey, check me out on my live stream. I would love to have some more Bible-minded, people that are in the Word help me out and help me understand some of the things. And so I have not got a chance to check you out yet, but I did see that you were a Christian, a follower of the Word. And I'm like, I invited you, and I invited a couple of other people. So yeah, let me get a chance to check your channel out. Let's see, Beyond the Game. What? Beyond the Game is here? Oh wow, your first time reading the Bible experience. Yeah, I've read it before. I had read it before. This is my first time going through the entire Bible. This is week 8. Week 8 of reading the Bible. I'm like, have I really been reading the Bible that long? Like, it doesn't even seem like it. So anyways, welcome. Yes, I'm going to do a quick recap of Leviticus. The other day I was saying, here's the thing. There are some juicy bits in the Bible, but there are a lot of dry bits. A lot of it is, talking about bloodlines, which is important to know. But when you start talking about this person had this person, and this was his son, and this was his son, and it kind of goes on and on again. It's important to know in the grand scheme of things, but sometimes that part is a little bit dry. Exodus, talking about the tabernacle, was interesting as long as I had the visuals up, but like very minute details of do it this way, measure it this way, have it this much. It was very, very dry. And then even with Leviticus talking about I'm not, when I say dry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying to read the Bible, there are some parts that it's a little bit tough to get through because it's not like a plot and ooh, who did what, who did this with who and where did they go? It doesn't read like that. A lot of the New Testament I'm starting to see reads like that, and it's kind of exciting and sad. And we know what's going on in the New Testament, but a lot of the Old Testament stuff, until they start actually talking about the people, like a lot of the instructions that God was talking about, discipline. That's all I can say. Discipline to get through it. So, anyways, yes, I'm happy that this is week 8. I repeat, we are in week 8 of reading the Bible. We are in the book of Leviticus. Chapter 16 was talking about the Day of Atonement. Chapter 17 was talking about prohibitions against eating blood. Chapter 18 was talking about forbidden sexual practices. And then that brings us up to 18 or 19. Yeah. So talk about chapter 19 is holiness in personal conduct. Holiness and personal conduct. Y'all ready for this one? Luckily for me, mine is also my spiritual guide. And the heart. Thank you for the heart. All right, let me jump into it. Chapter 19 of the book of Leviticus. And my mind is boggled. Who knew Leviticus came from the tribe of Levi? Like, I found that out last week. I didn't know that. It makes sense, but Levi, like the tribe of Levi. Leviticus. Levi. I was like, what? Okay. Chapter 19, Holiness in Personal Conduct. The Lord also said to Moses, give the following instructions to the entire community of Israel. You must be holy because I, the Lord, your God, am holy. Each of you must show great respect for your mother and father. And you must always observe my Sabbath day of rest. I am the Lord, your God. Do not put your trust in idols or make metal images of gods for yourself. I am the Lord, your God. When you sacrifice a peace offering to the Lord, offer it properly, so you will be accepted by God. The sacrifice must be eaten on the same day you offer it or the next day. Whatever is left over until the third day must be completely burned up. If any of the sacrifice is eaten on the third day, it will be contaminated, and I will not accept it. Anyone who eats it on the third day will be punished for defiling what is holy to the Lord and will be cut off from the community. When I read things like that, I'm thinking to myself, like, God has given it to the people as instructions, as like holy orders, but really it makes sense even just from like a practical sense. Because I was just about to say, any type of food that you leave out for more than a couple of days, it's going to start to get moldy, it's going to start to be stale, it's going to start to get bacteria on it. Of course, the people didn't know about bacteria back in the day. And so God is just pretty much telling them, like after the third day, burn it up. It's no good. But before I even said my commentary, it said it right there in verse 7. If any of the sacrifice is eaten on the third day, it will be contaminated, and I will not accept it. Anyone who eats it on the third day will be punished for defiling what is holy to the Lord and will be cut off from the community. God is just trying to keep the people healthy. Verse 9, when you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grain along the edges of your fields, and do not pick up what the harvesters drop. It is the same with your grape crop. Do not strip every last bunch of grapes from the vines, and do not pick up the grapes that fall to the ground. Leave them for the poor and the foreigners living among you. I am the Lord your God. Do not steal. Do not deceive or cheat one another. Do not bring shame on the name of your God by using it to swear falsely. I am the Lord. Now, I've mentioned it a couple times before, this particular Bible, the New Believers Bible. It is a very, very modern read. So if you've read through any part of the Bible before, like the typical classic King James Bible, or even one of the newer King James Bible or something like that, or New International Bible, they have a specific sound to it, a specific, grammar to it. This is a pretty modern read. So when I'm reading this, sometimes I'm wondering, is this something that I've heard before? For example, do not bring shame on the name of your God by using it to swear falsely. Is that don't use the Lord's name in vain? Because that's how I remember learning it. Don't use the Lord's name in vain. But here in this modern read, it says, do not bring shame on the name of your Lord by using it to swear falsely? Or is that something totally different? Let me know in the chat, or if you're watching this on the replay, let me know in the replay. If I continue reading, I might actually cover that one, but like I said, sometimes this modern read, it words things a little bit differently to make it easier to understand. But if you're used to hearing it a different way, it might be like, I don't remember that. All right, let's see. That was verse 12. 12 was, do not bring shame on the name of your God by using it to swear falsely. I am the Lord. Do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not make your hired workers wait until the next day to receive their pay. Do not insult the deaf or curse the blind or cause the blind to stumble. You must fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not twist justice in legal matters by favoring the poor or being partial to the rich and powerful. Always judge people fairly. Do not spread slanderous gossip among your people. Do not stand idly while your neighbor's life is threatened. I am the Lord. Do not nurse hatred in your heart for any of your relatives. Confront people directly so you will not be held guilty for their sin. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against a fellow Israelite, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You must obey all my decrees. Do not mate two different kinds of animals. Science. Do not plant your field with two different kinds of seed. Do not wear clothing woven from two different kinds of thread. If a man has sex with a slave girl whose freedom has never been purchased, but who is committed to become another man's wife, he must pay full compensation to her master. But since she is not a free woman, neither the man nor the woman will be put to death. The man, however, must bring a ram as a guilt offering and present it to the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will then purify him before the Lord with the ram of the guilt offering, and the man's sins will be forgiven. I got something in the postscript. You know how sometimes there's a little asterisk next to something. In verse 19, what did I read? Verse 19, chapter 19. 19 and 16. Okay, so in verse 16 I said, do not spread slanderous gossip among your people. In the postscript, the Hebrew reading would have said, do not act as a merchant toward your own people. And in verse 17, when I said, do not nurse hatred in your heart for any of your relatives, the Hebrew reads as, do not have hatred in your heart for your brother. In verse 21, when I said, the man, however, must bring a ram as a guilt offering and present it at the tabernacle. Of course, they have the tent of meeting that has been replaced a couple different times. The priest will purify him in verse 22 or make atonement for him. And yeah, all right, let's catch it up in verse 23. Make sure I don't lose any things. You need wisdom. Pray God will give you wisdom. Yes, ma'am, I will. I'm assuming you're a ma'am because it says mom at the end, but I will. Thank you. The Lord's name in vain. That's what I'm thinking that means. In verse 23, it says, when you enter the land and plant fruit trees, leave the fruit unharvested for the first 3 years and consider it forbidden. Why is that? In the Hebrew, it would say, consider the fruit uncircumcised. Interesting. Do not eat it. In the 4th year, the entire crop must be consecrated to the Lord as a celebration of praise. Finally, in the 5th year, you may eat the fruit. If you follow this pattern, your harvest will increase. I am the Lord your God. Do not eat meat that has not been drained of its blood. We learned about that yesterday. Do not practice fortune telling or witchcraft. Do not trim off the hair on your temples or trim your beards. You can see that in a lot of Orthodox Jews that have the hair hanging down from the sides on the men. Do not cut your bodies for the dead, and do not mark your skin with tattoos. I am the Lord. I'm definitely guilty of that sin, but I've already repented. Do not defile your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will be filled with prostitution and wickedness. Keep my Sabbath days of rest and show reverence toward my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Do not defile yourselves by turning to mediums or those who consult the spirits of the dead. I am the Lord your God. Stand up in the presence of the elderly, and show respect for the aged. Fear your God, I am the Lord. Do not take advantage of foreigners who live among you in your land. Treat them like native-born Israelites and love them as you love yourself. Remember that you were once foreigners living in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Do not use dishonest standards when measuring length, weight, or volume. Your scales and weights must be accurate. Your containers for measuring dry materials or liquids must be accurate. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You must be careful to keep all my decrees and regulations by putting them into practice. I am the Lord. And that's pretty much it. The word accurate is swapped out for honest in the Hebrew text. Now on to verse 20. Okay, verse 20 or chapter 20 talks about punishments for disobedience. The Lord said to Moses, "Give the people of Israel these instructions, which apply both to native Israelites and to the foreigners living in Israel. If any of them offer their children as a sacrifice to Molech, they must be put to death." That name was mentioned yesterday. Who is Molech? The people of the community must stone them to death. I myself will turn against them and cut them off from the community, because they have defiled my sanctuary and brought shame on my holy name by offering their children to Molech. And if the people of the community ignore those who offer their children to Molech and refuse to execute them, I myself will turn against them and their families and will cut them off from the community. This will happen to all who commit spiritual prostitution by worshiping Molech. I've never heard of that before. Spiritual prostitution? I've never heard of that phrase before. Real quick, I'm going to look up Molech and then I'll do a screen share with y'all. I think I actually have heard of him because I watch some conspiracy theories. Not necessarily conspiracy theories, but I follow a couple of channels who talk about some of the things that go on in current events and how they relate to what's going on in the Bible. And I think I might have seen it, like a picture of it, but let me see. Screen share time. Quick screen share. Bam. Yeah, I think I've seen this before. False god Molech, Molech, Baal, abortion, child sacrifice. This is definitely some deep stuff to do some research on my own. We got some political stuff even popping in here. So I'm going to leave this for you guys to look up on your own if you choose. But I just wanted to have some type of visual to go along with this. I think this is the one that I saw. So this is a furnace. Yeah, I don't remember the exact video that I saw, but this is a furnace. It's a statue of some type of idol, and it's a furnace, and the people are literally sacrificing their babies to this idol and burning them up. I don't remember the exacts. Like I said, if you're interested in knowing more, I encourage you to do some research and figure out what's going on here. But this is who is being referred to in the reading right now. All right. Let's see. So this is what I'm reading in chapter 20. This is what I'm reading in chapter 20, and I just finished that up in verse 3. I myself will turn against them and cut them off from the community, because they've defiled my sanctuary and brought shame on my holy name by offering their children to Molech. And if the people of the community ignore those who offer their children to Molech and refuse to execute them, I myself will turn against them and their families and will cut them off from the community. This will happen to all who commit spiritual prostitution by worshiping Molech. I will also turn against those who commit spiritual prostitution by putting their trust in mediums or those who consult the spirits of the dead. I will cut them off from the community. So set yourselves apart to be holy, for I am the Lord your God. Keep all my decrees by putting them into practice, for I am the Lord who makes you holy. Not very far from where I live, in the city of Arlington, there are a couple of places on a particular street that does tarot card readings and palm readings and things like that. So from what I'm understanding, I don't know if they claim to speak with the dead as well, but from what I'm reading, it says don't do that. Based off of what I'm reading, it says don't do that. Verse 9, anyone who dishonors father or mother must be put to death. Such a person is guilty of a capital offense. If a man commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, both the man and the woman who have committed adultery must be put to death. If a man violates his father by having sex with one of his father's wives, both the man and the woman must be put to death, for they are guilty of a capital offense. If a man has sex with his daughter-in-law, both must be put to death. They have committed a perverse act and are guilty of a capital offense. If a man practices homosexuality, having sex with another man as a woman, both men have committed a detestable act. They must both be put to death, for they are guilty of a capital offense. If a man marries both a woman and her mother, he has committed a wicked act. The man and both women must be burned to death, to wipe out such wickedness from among you. If a man has sex with an animal, he must be put to death, and the animal must be killed. If a woman presents herself to a male animal to have intercourse with it, she and the animal must both be put to death. You must kill both, for they are guilty of a capital offense. If a man marries his sister, the daughter of either his father or his mother, and they have sexual relations, it is a shameful disgrace. They must be publicly cut off from the community. Since the man has violated his sister, he will be punished for his sin. If a man has sexual relations with a woman during her menstrual period, both of them must be cut off from the community, for together they have exposed the source of her blood flow. Do not have sexual intercourse with your aunt, whether your mother's sister or your father's sister. This would dishonor a close relative. Both parties are guilty and will be punished for their sin. If a man has sex with his uncle's wife, he has violated his uncle. Both the man and the woman will be punished for their sin, and they will die childless. If a man marries his brother's wife, it is an act of impurity. He has violated his brother, and the guilty couple will remain childless. You must keep all my decrees and regulations by putting them into practice. Otherwise, the land to which I am bringing you as your new home will vomit you out. Do not live according to the customs of the people I am driving out before you. It is because they do these shameful things that I detest them. But I have promised you, you will possess their land, because I will give it to you as your possession, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am the Lord your God, who has set you apart from all other people. You must therefore make a distinction between ceremonially clean and unclean animals, and between clean and unclean birds. You must not defile yourselves by eating any unclean animal or bird or creature that scurries along the ground. I've identified them as being unclean for you. You must be holy, because I, the Lord, am holy. I have set you apart from all other people to be my very own. Men and women among you who act as mediums or who consult the spirits of the dead must be put to death by stoning. They are guilty of a capital offense. And chapter 21 is my last one. I don't know who's still hanging out, but I'll ask to the folks in the chat and also to the people in the replay. How uncomfortable does this make you feel? I feel pretty uncomfortable reading a lot in this particular chapter, because in the year 2020, the year that I am reading this, between the year 1978 and the year 2020, that's my current lifespan. God willing, I live a lot longer than that. But I've seen a lot of this, like, not as a rare occurrence. Like, I've seen some of this, I've seen either in person on shows like Jerry Springer. on other shows that talk about just outliers, things that you don't see every day, in movies and in entertainment and in music videos. I've seen a lot of this, and it's so normalized that it almost makes me feel uncomfortable to read that it's wrong in the Bible. I let me know if you feel the same way in the chat or in the replay, or if you just like you don't feel uncomfortable, but it's just like you're shaking your head like, yeah, that's all going on right now. Like almost everything that I just read about, I've read, seen, or heard about, or watched on some type of show in some way, shape, or form. And some of this stuff is considered normal or acceptable or just a part of life. So I think this is probably the first time I feel like really like, ooh, uncomfortable. I don't know why. I don't know why. That's something to think about in itself. Okay, moving on to chapter 21. Oh, make sure I don't miss anything in the chat. Mama's Homestead says Moloch was a demon, and also says, I posted your live to Facebook on my personal and my business account. Hey, I appreciate that. Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Thanks. Yeah, the more the merrier that gets into to help me out and understand this. That was very kind of you. I do appreciate that. Um, Instructions for the priest. This is the final chapter reading for today, according to my guide. Chapter 21 is talking about instructions for the priest. So we had some instructions for the priest a couple chapters ago, and now we have some more. I don't know if they're the same ones or if this is like the cause and effect, or um, like right now, punishments for disobedience or anything like that. The Lord said to Moses in verse 1, give the following instructions to the priests, the descendants of Aaron. So the first time we were talking about Aaron and his sons, and now we're talking about the other priests. I got you. A priest must not make himself ceremonially unclean by touching the dead body of a relative. The only exceptions are his closest relatives, his mother or father, son or daughter, brother, or his virgin sister who depends on him because she has no husband. But a priest must not defile himself and make himself unclean for someone who is related to him only by marriage. The priests must not shave their heads or trim their beards or cut their bodies. They must be set apart as holy to their God and must never bring shame on the name of God. They must be holy, for they are the ones who present the special gifts to the Lord, gifts of food for their God. Priests may not marry a woman defiled by prostitution, and they may not marry a woman who is divorced from her husband, for the priests are set apart as holy to their God. You must treat them as holy because they offer up food to your God. You must consider them holy because I, the Lord, am holy, and I make you holy. If a priest's daughter defiles herself by becoming a prostitute, she also defiles her father's holiness, and she must be burned to death. The high priest has the highest rank of all the priests. The anointing oil has been poured on his head, and he has been ordained to wear the priestly garments. He must never leave his hair uncombed or tear his clothing. He must not defile himself by going near a dead body. He may not make himself ceremonially unclean, even for his father or mother. He must not defile the sanctuary of his God by leaving it to attend to a dead person, for he has been made holy by the anointing oil of his God. I am the Lord. That whole tearing of the clothes things, I've read that several times so far. When something really terrible happens, especially like a death of a person or the loss of a person, I'm noticing people are like, oh no, why, like either tearing at their hair or tearing at their clothes. And a little while ago, yesterday, or the day before yesterday, when Aaron's sons improperly acted in the temple and they were burned up and consumed by the fire, they died. The Lord told Moses to tell Aaron, don't tear your clothes, in grief, in active grief. And now it's saying here again, he must never leave his hair uncombed, talking about the priest, or tear his clothing. So those are like acts of grief, right? Like basically neglecting yourself because you've lost somebody, you're grieving over them, and I'm thinking that that's like a traditional or cultural thing that was going on back then, but the priests were told not to do that. In verse 13, it says, the high priest may marry only a virgin. He may not marry a widow, a woman who is divorced, or a woman who has defiled herself by prostitution. She must be a virgin from his own clan, so that he would not dishonor his descendants among his clan. For I am the Lord who made him holy. Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to Aaron. In all future generations, none of your descendants who has any defect will qualify to offer food to his God. No one who has a defect qualifies, whether he is blind, lame, disfigured, deformed, or has a broken foot or arm, or is hunchbacked, or dwarfed, or has a defective eye, or skin sores, or scabs, or damaged testicles. Why? Why is that part there? Is it because they don't have the ability to have children and therefore they can't carry on and have an heir? But yeah, that one it just seems kind of out of place. But it is not, because it is in the place and it's there for a reason. I just don't understand it yet. No descendant of Aaron who has a defect may approach the altar to present special gifts to the Lord. Since he has a defect, he may not approach the altar to offer food to his God. However, he may eat from the food offered to God, including the holy offering and the most holy offerings. Yet, because of his physical defect, he may not enter the room behind the inner curtain or approach the altar, for this would defile my holy places. I am the Lord who makes them holy. So Moses gave these instructions to Aaron and his sons and to all the Israelites, concluding chapter 21 of the book of Leviticus. My question to you, don't know if you have an answer or not, but this is my question / commentary. Why are people with physical deformities or defects or anything like that, why are they excluded from the priesthood? It says right there at the end that they can eat from the food that was presented, that was set aside for the priests. That was like what, the thigh and the breast that was held up, right? And then certain bread that was a certain portion of the bread that was put up for the offering, but then the priests were allowed to eat that. So they're allowed to eat from these offerings, but they're not actually allowed to participate. I am curious as to why that is. I can speculate, but I want to know, what is your opinion of that? What is your interpretation of that? What is your understanding of that? I'm going to just go out on a limb and say, so the priests have all these different responsibilities to do with the sacrificing, carrying these animals into the tabernacle and sacrificing them and doing the different there's that word again that's just flying off the top of my head. Ceremonies. Ceremonies is not the word I was looking for, but it's close enough. Ritual. Doing these different rituals, and they're responsible to do the rituals a certain way exactly. I'm just going to make an assumption, maybe a person with a bad leg, or maybe with a person with a hunchback, or because they have some type of limitation, maybe they can't carry the animal, and so maybe they'll drop it or defile it some kind of way. Maybe they might, like a blind person might bump into the sides of the walls or something, and it just won't be as easy for them to do the ceremony and the ritual as God had laid it out. I'm wondering, is that the reason why they're excluded from it, or is it for like more symbolic reason? Like even with the sacrifices that the people were told to bring, they're like, bring a ram or a goat or a sheep with no defects. Like, is that symbolic, or is it more practical? Like, you need to be like where I work in a factory, right? The place which will remain unnamed. Like, I work in a factory and it's an equal opportunity employer, but at the same time, people that work, people that maybe live in a wheelchair or have to use crutches or something like that, or even blind people, they're not eligible to work there, because it would be unsafe. It would be unsafe for them to work in that environment, and they would not be able to keep up. So you basically need to have no physical deformities as in there. So That's the practicality of it. That's how I'm trying to understand it, by using something in my own life to understand this. What is your interpretation of it? Let me know. I would like to know, what is your understanding of that last portion in Leviticus 21. And that concludes today's reading. I will see you guys tomorrow morning for, let me double check. I will see you tomorrow morning for Leviticus 22 through 24. And then by Wednesday, we're going to be done with the book of Leviticus. So by Thursday, we're going to jump back into the New Testament with Luke. And yeah. That's it. All right. Oh, I missed a lot. I got to jump back over here. To make you understand better, those were books that were before Jesus went to the cross. When he went to the cross, he said, "It is finished." Right. I mentioned this a couple of days ago. Like, these are rules, a set of rules. Like, this is how you live. This is how you set yourself apart. But then we were in the book of Matthew 2 weeks ago and Mark last week. And basically, when the Pharisees and the high priests were saying, "Hey, we're supposed to be living like this, and this, and here you coming in here, you doing stuff differently." And Jesus is like, "I'm not here to change the prophecy or change what is written. I'm here to fulfill it." So you're right about that. These are the Old Testament, and I think that's why this particular guide is kind of like going back and forth. Like, we started off in Genesis, then we jumped ahead, and then we're coming back to the Old Testament, and then going to the New Testament. So we're talking about what was written and what the laws were and how the people were supposed to live, so they could be set apart, so they could already be set apart and have a certain standard of living and a way of worshiping. And then we jump back into the New Testament, and Jesus is like, yes, that is the way we should live, but this is what I'm telling you right now. It is done. I'm here to do what I came to do. So yes. Meaning we are not under the same law. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Let me go back up so I can finish it all as one paragraph. To make you understand better, those were the books that were before Jesus went to the cross. When he went to the cross, he said, "It is finished," meaning we are not under the same law. We are to love God and love others and ask for forgiveness. And yes, love. I got what you were saying, man. I got what you're saying. Yes. So when I finish up Leviticus, and we hit up Mark. Did I say Mark? No, Luke. We already finished Mark. So when I finish up Leviticus and we hit up Luke, by the middle of the week, we're probably going to see a lot of that same, people testing Jesus, people criticizing Jesus, people basically saying you're blaspheming and you're wrong. This is how we're supposed to live. And Jesus used the scripture to correct the people and let them know what was what. So yes. And that's why I invited you. And I'm inviting like as many of my Christian friends as I can, because I have a little bit of understanding, but I have enough not to understand. I know enough to know I don't know. I know that I don't know. And so, yes, I enjoy it when people give me their insight, their interpretation. If you don't mind, anybody who's watching this on the replay now, let me know which translation are you using? This is the New Living Translation. I do have the Classic King James. I have the New International Version, both in English and in Spanish. I've got the New King James Version, and somewhere I've got just a New Testament that I don't know which translation it is. And then I've got my Compact Bible Dictionary. I do know where it is, so give me 1 second. Let me go look for it. All right. I didn't bring these out earlier because this is just another King James Version, Red Letter Concordance. This is the one that has Jesus' words in red. And then this one is New Testament and Proverbs, ERV. I've never heard of an ERV. I might have to check this one out. Oh, easy to read version. So this might be very similar to the one that I'm reading here. Maybe I'll hit that one up from time to time. But one of my viewers said, stick with the same Bible that I've been reading because it kind of has a certain flow to it, a certain vibe to it. All right. On that note, thank you. Awesome study. Thank you so much for your time. May God bless you and keep you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And quick prayer to the folks listening now and on the replay. May the Lord bless you, heal you, watch over you, protect you, and bring you closer to Him so that there is a better understanding and a stronger bond in your relationship with the Lord. Everybody be safe. See you on tomorrow. Amen. Amen. And I'm out. I'm out, I'm out, I'm out. Entrepreneur Drive 40, Entrepreneur Drive. Entrepreneur Drive 40, Entrepreneur Drive. Entrepreneur Drive 40, Entrepreneur Drive. Thanks for watching, share, like, and subscribe.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to follow me on social media.